Hey everybody, how you doing? I'll start off this way. Congratulations to David Montgomery for saying he wanted out of Detroit. And the reason why he wanted out was simply that he wasn't seeing the ball as much. They weren't giving him opportunities to make carries. And so as a result, hold on a second, folks. I've got a frozen stream situation here. I don't know why I've been having this lately, but I'm going to have to stop this and start all over. I'm going to have to stop this. I'll be right back. Okay, folks, I'm back. So, as I was saying, the reason and the big problem why this happened was that David Montgomery simply was unhappy. He said he wanted a trade, he wanted out because he wasn't seeing the ball as much with the emergence of Jameer Gibbs. And look, let's face it, Jameer Gibbs is an explosive runner. But look, David Montgomery did have at least one explosive outing last year, and that was when he popped off for 152 yards against the Baltimore Ravens in game 4 for both organizations of the NFL season last year. Other than that, he hasn't seen the ball much. His carries have been, six, five. Against the Ravens, it was 10. And that was really the high water mark. After that, not really. But when he did see the ball, the ball was given to him, he produced 4 point. In fact, at no point in his career has David Montgomery ever had less than a 3.7 yard running average. Now, you would say, oh, gee, that's not spectacular. But also, it means that if I give him the ball three times, on the third time, I'm going to get a first down, sometimes the second. And if you watch his runs, he has a great way of finding the hole and basically carving his body as the whole pattern changes. Because if in today's modern offenses, the way the offensive line deploys as a play goes through its lifespan, which is like, 2 to 4 seconds, the shape of the offensive line and the available holes change. He literally runs to one and then the other and does a great job picking up yardage between the line of scrimmage and as much as up to 5 to 7 yards downfield. Really effective. It's not a common sight to see David Montgomery down for a loss. I'm not saying it doesn't happen, but It's why he's regarded as a power runner, a short yardage runner, and a goal end zone runner. The Texans, when they got down inside the 20, seemed to be allergic to the end zone for most of last year and the year before that under offensive coordinator Bobby Slowick. This marks a marked effort for the Texans to get better scoring inside the 20 and in particular in the goal line area. So David Montgomery will definitely help them in there. But where he will also help them and also applies to the goal line has something to do with the fact that he was a high school quarterback. And brother, last year the Lions made use of that fact once against the Bengals, a very effective play that had Montgomery starting as the Wildcat quarterback, then running as if he was going to, well, go up the middle, but then he stopped after two steps, went up through, touchdown for the Lions. You can bet that using that play is in the back of the mind of the Houston Texans. And that fact that he can throw, I believe, is something that will be employed more often than the one time it was with the Lions last year. I think you're going to see it at least 3 or 4 times with the Texans this year over this stretch of 17 games. I can't wait to see how the Texans employ David Montgomery. But you're asking, was it good for the Lions? I don't think it was. I know there are people with a free press that have said, oh, this is a win for the Detroit Lions because it means more, carries for uh, their bell cow running back in terms of uh, uh, um, his ability to be effective more often because he's seeing the ball, more often. And I just I I don't believe that's going to pan out. And the reason I don't believe that is going to pan out is I have a feeling that the Lions are looking at this as they're going to basically replace David Montgomery with a younger, faster version. And I believe they have their eye on someone in this draft. Now, just who that is the other question. But where the Lions are drafting, which is kind of mid pack, is where a lot of the running backs will start to go. There's a lot of great ones to be available this year, not just uh, at the top of the heap. And I'm certain that the Lions want to be part of a group that takes advantage of the availability of these young stars at this juncture. It's not every draft that you have this large a set of quality running backs coming out at once. That's precisely what's going on this year. I think the Lions don't want to be a part of that, and David Montgomery just gives them a perfect situation where and to make that deal. Of course, they're only getting a fifth round pick for him. Think about it, a fifth round pick. If I take a look at the Detroit Lions 2026 NFL draft picks, what I find is that currently they have picks in round 1, 2, 4, 5, 2 in round 6, and 1 in round 7. Now, this was done, the list I just read to you was done before the trade that sent David Montgomery to the Texans for a fifth round pick. Now the Lions have 2. That gives them capital to move up and get a third round pick. All right. And it's in the third round as well that they can gain a quality running back that would easily replace David Montgomery. Well, not easily replace, but replace David Montgomery over time. And I'll bet credits to Navy Beans is exactly what the Lions are going to do. They've already got a uh, um, their situation set with respect to wide receiver and with respect to, well, they could use some improvement at the offensive line. So I'll put that as an asterisk. And I believe they need a better backup quarterback myself to spell Jared Goff because he's, getting into that place where he's becoming a wily crafty veteran, right? But back to David Montgomery. David Montgomery is a solid running back you build a playoff team around. But he is not someone that you consider your only running back. And that's why I believe the Texans are getting gold with him and how he can be employed. And that's why I believe the Lions made a mistake in getting rid of him. And I don't believe, unlike others, that Jair Alexander is going to be back there running all by himself. I think, I really believe that the Lions are going to go after a another running back to replace him. And I think it's going to be in the mid rounds. And I believe that the fifth round pick that they got for him will play a role in their moving up to get the running back that becomes the next David Montgomery. So those are my thoughts on this. What do you think on the matter? Now, I'm going to read some of the other points of view before I go here because they are notable. Oh, and by the way, you were saying, what about that throw, Zenny? And I'm saying, okay, you want to see the pass that he pulled off? Well, I can't show you the actual the actual uh, throw itself in action because that would be a copyright claim. But I can show you a picture of it, and there is the situation. You can see how the play was just unfolding. Montgomery took the snap. He was in the wildcat formation. Took 2 steps to the right, and as you can see, number 85 there, tight end, is just standing there. Actually, number 82, tight end, is just standing there, wide open to catch the pass, and he does. And note they were 5, 6 yards out. So this is the kind of play that I believe the Texans will use, and again, use it frequently enough to keep defenses honest and make the run at goal line that much harder to defend, if only because you have to make sure that you've got some players back to also watch out for the possibility of David Montgomery throwing. That's a scary thought, throwing. So yeah, I'm saying that's why they got him. This versatility that he brings. And let's not forget, he can catch passes out of the backfield and hasn't gained great many yards because of the way the Lions used him. But I believe that the Texans will be, well, at least I hope for the Texans, they'll be a lot more innovative in their approach to how they throw to David Montgomery. He opens up a lot of possibilities for them that help them fill areas of need. He really does. Now, what are others saying about this? And this is getting back to some disagreements I have with what I saw um, on the matter of the news. And for example, the New York Post has this news: Lions trade David Montgomery to Texans hours after star running back scoffed at rumor. This is rumors of a move. This is interesting. Let's take a look at this quickly, even though it's not exactly what I wanted to take a look at, because I wanted to explore some other conversations here. But let's bring this to the stage. All right. And right here, and there it says, or reads, Lions trade David Montgomery to Texans hours after star running back scoffed at rumors of move. And this is by Eric Richter, who reports major changes are being made in Detroit. The Lions are trading star running back David Montgomery to the Houston Texans for a 4th-round draft pick, a 7th-round draft pick, and offensive lineman Juice Scruggs, according to multiple reports. Now, I stand corrected regarding the 5th-round pick. I said that they had are going to add to their 5th round pick. They had 2 6th round picks. No, now they have 4. Excuse me. Now they have 2 4th round picks, but it still does mean that they can cobble together those 2 4th round picks and move into the 3rd round because they don't have a 3rd round pick. So, at any rate, it reads here that rumors have been swirling or had been swirling at the NFL Combine that he wanted out, though Montgomery himself appeared to deny them on Sunday. There he is. And so then Reed continues to read, damn, don't know who, damn Mo, who told you that? Something like that. He wrote that on Twitter. Montgomery had a strong 3 seasons with the Lions, the New York Post writes, rushing for 1,015 yards in his first year in 2023, but has seen his attempts drop each year with the Lions. The Lions are expected to re-sign Jahmyr Gibbs this offseason for a massive contract extension as he takes control of the always productive Detroit backfield. Now, I have to say that that comment, that sentence is wrong. He may take control of the Detroit backfield, but it doesn't necessarily mean that it will be productive with just him back there. But it's also why I assert the Lions are going to draft a running back to accompany Jahmyr Gibbs, who they believe is faster than and yet as big or bigger than David Montgomery. Let's face it, David's 5'11", 230. There are running backs coming out that offer greater size, speed, capability than that, and yet are still running back /fullback material. Okay. Now, Montgomery figures to compete with Woody Marks, who looked like a strong contributor as a rookie for the Texans for the top running back job. Houston also has former Bengals star running back Joe Mixon on the roster, though he did not play one snap last season as he dealt with an undisclosed injury that appeared to have his future significantly in doubt. Yeah, it was a gnarly injury. This goes on to read the Texans trading for Montgomery will further complicate things for Mixon as they look to build around CJ Stroud. Now, here I disagree. Joe Mixon is a halfback. Joe Mixon is not a fullback. David Montgomery is a fullback. There is no confusion, at least with me, how these two will be employed or should be employed. If they are presented such that there is some type of competition and confusion, then it's a mistake on the Texans to allow that to develop. I don't believe DeMeco Ryans, the head coach of the Texans, will allow such a situation to metastasize. The Texans were 12-5 last season and made it to the playoffs before falling to the Patriots. And so we know what happened to the Lions, right? So there's one take. The other is by this by the Detroit Free Press. Detroit Lions trade David Montgomery to Houston Texans for draft picks. And this gentleman believes the trade was a win for the Detroit Lions. Let's hear what he has to say in this brief video that he's made. I'll turn off echo cancellation here and then go to get his comments. Yeah, here we are. Let me get rid of that tab and then play this, and you can see that.
He wasn't going to find that in Detroit.
Now,
this is Jahmyr Gibbs' team. Lions are not in the business of taking the ball out of his hands. Now, look, they have to go find a running back to back up Jahmyr Gibbs. They need some insurance at the position. They save a little bit of money by trading David Montgomery, and they'll have to allocate some of that to whoever they sign to be a backup this year. But the reality is to get 2 draft picks, a 4th-rounder that gives them some options in the draft. They'll have at least 2 4th-rounders, maybe 3. They're projected to get a 5th-round compensatory pick right now from overthecap.com, but at least 2, plus a sweetener in 2000.
See, if the Lions are projected to get a 5th-round compensatory pick, that means they'll wind up having 2 4th-round picks and 2 5th-round picks. That's a lot of bargaining chip to have, okay, in the NFL draft. a place where on day 3 you want that kind of maneuvering room to move up and be one of the major takers in the 3rd round when day 3 gets going. Okay, this is interesting, and so quite interesting. So, all right.
27, and an offensive lineman who, let's make no bones about it, the Houston Texans were not trading somebody they thought was a starting center, starting interior lineman in this league as part of this package. But for the Lions, Juice Scruggs could compete for playing time at center. He could, at a very minimum, be a backup at all 3 interior line spots. He has starting experience at left guard and center.
When I stand corrected, by the way, that would be a day 2 issue, not a day 3 issue. Day 2. So the Lions want to be in great place on day 2 of the draft to get the kind of player they want. And those NFL draft pick additions to what they have give them the kind of bargaining power that they would need to make maneuvering room up.
The Lions, we all know, need a center, and it remains to be seen what they do at that position in free agency and the draft if they move Tate Ratledge there, even though he'd prefer to stay at right guard. They have options now heading into free agency, and that's why I think this trade was a win for.
I think that the center from Indiana is going to wind up being a Detroit Lion. Don't ask me why, but I think they really have their eye on him. He could go in the 1st round, okay? He could go in the 1st round. So there you have some of the thinking about the trade of David Montgomery to Houston and what the Texans get. Look, David Montgomery added 717 yards from line of scrimmage last year. And that's only because he saw fewer carries because of the emergence of Jahmyr Gibbs. But you know what? I think he's going to be eager to put more yards on the ground for the Texans, provided the Texans give him the opportunity to do so. I think the Texans should concentrate on building a powerful 2 running back attack. You don't see that as much today, but I believe that such an attack can continue to confound defenses well into the future. And I believe that if you use a Bill Walsh offense approach with pre-shifts and motion of the backs, a team like the Texans can give a lot of opponents fits. A lot of them. All right. So you tell me what you think of this trade. David Montgomery becomes a Houston Texan. Will it help them get to the Super Bowl? Tell me what you think. Subscribe to Zenny62 YouTube and bookmark NFL News by Zenny62.com. That ends this broadcast. Thanks.